everybody. Welcome to World Edition on the Pod TV Network. I'm Nick Palomino. I will not be your host today because Mark Lee will as soon as he comes in, and he's not here yet. But we do have somebody who's beaming across from the other side of the planet out of Bangladesh. You may have seen him. He actually heads up the World Talent Economic Forum, and we're going to bring him on right now. Dr. Sharif.
Hello, Professor. How are you?
I'm doing great, but then I'm always doing great. We just had a good show on medicine and science. As you know, that politics is permeating our medical system here in the U.S. I don't know how it is in Bangladesh. I can tell you in Spain is sane. In other words, it's a universal health care we have here. And if you want to go see a doctor, I could go see one tomorrow. I mean, they're easily available. Some of the arguments, well, you can't have universal health care, you'll never get in to see a doctor. No, that's absolutely not true. And we don't have a tremendous amount of sick people. And on top of it, our life expectancy is like 5 years longer than the United States. Not that I'm beating up the United States right now, but seriously, guys, you got to go look at metrics, and see where you're at. Now, with that, the U.S. is still the world's largest economy. Got that. In other words, they're still, notice I say the word still, the world's largest economy, but not the world's largest economy based on purchasing power. That's China right now, your next door neighbor, Dr. Shree. So tell us a little bit now. Also, the U.S. government is shut down. Now, we had a talk with David Walker on Monday, and I predicted it will shut down, and I was correct. Now, I also predict it's going to go on for quite some time. In other words, maybe even to next year. I don't know how, when you predict things in the future, it's kind of hard to have a completely good crystal ball. My crystal ball says this is going to be around for a while. I'm not sure how it is in Bangladesh. Maybe you could tell our viewers a little bit about the healthcare system. I'm sure you've run into that. And also the political system over where you live in the other part of Asia.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Nick. I want to add some interesting point from emerging economy. I am from emerging economy. My World Talent Economic Forum, we are working with the emerging economies like India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Malaysia, Indonesia, China, Africa, Middle East like UAE and all of the countries. Interesting aspect for me, the present world, what we are observing in USA definitely a very good example for global supremacy, global powers, economic power, technological innovations, AI innovations, Hollywood, all of the big things, even the social media, everything happening in USA. On the other hand, a country like Bangladesh, we are very small, but we have a story. If we want to focus on the economic values and all of the things, major concern how we can improve the life of grassroots level community, and it's completely depend how we can take economic initiative, how we take different kind of social initiative and cultural initiative. Beside that, I want to add one point. It's called spirituality. Spirituality is a very important aspect for Bangladesh, for China, for Japan, and all of the things. Uh, Beside that, if you see that we are working right now with IIT, it's called Karma Yoga Foundations. So Karma Yoga is a concept. We work for betterment of our and we will work for the improvement of the human life, improvement of the human progressions, and we do not want result. The same way, if you go to the Islamic concept, you can find climate finance, Islamic finance, microfinance, and people has fi sabilillah, the concept of zakat and all of the things. We do it for betterment of the human progressions. The same thing we see it in the Western world. We call it mindfulness. But I think what we discussing about GDP, what we discussing about shutdown, what we discussing about big economy, the success of human life depends on how we help, how we support our community, how we support our countries, how we help our grassroots level communities. That is the concept of World Talent Economic Forum. And we launched this Center of Excellence. Many young people, talented people, good people like Nick Palveda, they are joining in this ecosystem. And for TV, definitely, you are inspiring, encouraging our economy, encouraging our community. We are heavily promoting Pot TV in Bangladesh, in our grassroots level communities. We are it's like a Harvard, online Harvard, for emerging economy. I'm very hopeful our partnerships, our friendship can bring more success for human life, and through this way you can change billions of people life. So hopefully it create a excellent ecosystem for us. Thank you, Mr. Nick Palveda, for organizing these spot TVs and all of the interesting things.
No, well, thank you, Dr. Sharif, especially being able to bring a vision of what's going on in Asia and that part of the world to the United States, which is basically left out. In other words, what goes on that part of the world, it is really difficult. And even here in Spain, I hate to say it, Dr. Sharif, it's difficult for us to get information on what goes on in Bangladesh, India, and China, and Spain. So how bad is it? It's pretty bad. So the European Union, even just the West, tends to ignore the East, like you guys don't exist, but you have half the population of the world. And I just go, why is that? It doesn't seem to make any sense. But with that, we do have a person on our network who has one of the world's highest IQs, who can make sense of the senseless. And that is, of course, Rick Rosner, who used to work for Jimmy Kimmel. I don't know if Jimmy Kimmel is still on the air or off the air.
Yeah, no, he's on the air. He's in Brooklyn this week.
Oh, yes.
Once a year he goes. He's from he until he was 10. He lived in Brooklyn. Then his family, they all moved to Vegas. So he has two hometowns.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Well, Pod TV is still on the air, and it looks like we're going to be on the air for quite some time. So unfortunately, the major media has to deal with us or not deal with. I did see there was something on News Nation. Yeah, I don't know if you even get News Nation. It looks like Mark is beaming in and out of somewhere. I have no idea where he's at. Let me see if I can get him off the mute. Anyway, Dr. Malone is on News Nation, believe it or not.
Well,
I know
News Nation they're right leaning, right?
I don't know. I don't watch them, So I watch Pod TV, I watch CNN now and BBC. Why? Because all you guys speak English, seriously. And the other choices I go listen to Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. So,
but it's also the news source of America and everything like that. So we were talking about the NIL deals. We were talking about the government shutdown. We were talking about a number of other things. Because if you ever want, as Rick knows, to know what's going on in the world, go to your neighborhood barbershop. And so that's what I was doing. So I was at my neighborhood barbershop because I was tired of looking like McGruff and everything. So I went there, and of course that was the big conversations and everything. So there was conversation around NIL and around the government shutdown, and even around some of the violence that is taking place, whether it was here in North Carolina, in Durham, where I am, or in other places. But yeah, I'm here to jump on the bus and head back to the home front. But yeah, just let you know that if you ever want to know the news of the community, just go to your neighborhood barbershop.
The problem with my neighborhood barbershop, they all speak Spanish or Catalan, and I don't speak Catalan or Spanish. That's something I got to learn when I get back from Salt Lake next week. I'm going to have to spend time learning the language.
And the trouble with my barbershop is I'm my barbershop. My hair's going to look terrible no matter what I do. So I cut my own hair. It starts sticking out in places. I just cut off the places where it sticks out.
Oh, you also don't know, in Spain they have the Spanish cut. I'm serious, and everybody doesn't. I hate it. What they do is they do a razor cut from here on down. I'm not kidding. And then just leave a little hair up there. And so when I first got here,
I have a question for you.
What is it, Dr. Shree?
Yeah, let's say we are observing the Gen Z. They are heavily doing all of the political movement and everything in Bangladesh, in Nepal, in Indonesia,
The
in
young
Sri Lanka.
people that you're talking about, right?
In even today, I see it in Madagascar. Even my last global talent show, I interviewed one uh, Gen Z representative from USA. I want to know what is happening with these Gen Z's things in Spain and in USA.
Yeah. Well, here's one of the problems with the Gen Zs, because I do get to know some of them here. The problem here, Dr. Shreve, is the financial opportunities just aren't here. They can't make a lot of money in Spain. The jobs are, for the most part, they're low end jobs. There's 8,700 restaurants in Barcelona, so they're low tourism. We used to call them, when I lived in Florida, sunbucks. In other words, you work at very low wage. So what they do, the people that have brains, they go to the United States, seriously, where they can make a lot of money. So I have some people that, actually, one of them I think is teaching at CU Boulder, Rick. He's working on his PhD. He got a job there, and as a graduate assistant, he's making like 40 or 50,000 a year. Well, let me tell you, in Spain, he ain't making no 40, 50,000 a year. He'll be looking to make 15 or 20,000 a year. I am not kidding, because the Spain wages here are extremely low and the taxes are relatively high. I mean, you get really hit, 10, 20%, even at that level.
Hey, Nick, just out of curiosity, because the other thing that was up to discuss at the barbershop was a lot of conversation around sports, and we were talking about the new rules in sports, whether it's the kickoff rules that exist, which means that you can take the ball at around the 35-yard line on certain kicks and everything like that. And in baseball, and we're in the middle of the playoff season, my Brewers are the #1 seed and everything like that in their league. But they were talking about that second base rule, where in the 10th inning, you automatically go to the second base. So for both you and Dr. Sharif, what is the thoughts around these new rules? And also, it seems like soccer is very popular around the world, and a lot of people are amazed at these soccer-like kickers that can kick 60-yard field goals like they were the old-fashioned kind of field goals back in the day.
Yeah. Well, the problem, I'm not going to answer for Dr. Sharif, but in Spain, American football, no one cares about at all. When I say no one, obviously they're going to have some games here, and they'll have expats. They'll show up. There's 100,000 Americans that live in Spain, so they'll go show up at the Dolphins game. But basically, the culture is soccer. It's big. FC Barcelona is huge. Real Madrid is big. And the other thing they play is cricket. I don't know if they play that in where you're at in Bangladesh, but cricket, soccer are the big sports. American baseball, no. American football, no. That's an American thing, and they're having an extremely difficult time exporting it. So that's where it is. What are the big sports over there, Dr. Shree?
In Bangladesh, definitely cricket. And cricket is actually long time games, even our test cricket for 5 days. Then all of the people focus on one-day cricket, 50 overs crickets, like what you are talking about, American baseball. And then it's really like a baseball. Now it's T20, like 20 overs crickets, like in 3 hours. So a lot of people, we have a huge audience and huge peoples. They love cricket. Cricketers are very rich here in Bangladesh or in India and in Pakistan and in Sri Lanka. And even politically, they are very influential. And at some point, because they are politically motivated, they engage with political activities. Sometimes they are kicked out from the politics. It's happened in the politics. But football also very popular things. What you discuss is very, very popular. And I think that Bangladeshi people are big fan what you were discussing about Barcelona, fan of Real Madrid and all of the European League. They are very, very big things. Even our local football, this is also very popular. And I want to say that Bangladeshi people actually very big fan of Hollywood. Very, very big fan of Hollywood. And they like the Hollywood movies. And, we have garments industry. So our garments industry need to export their products and outside Bangladesh and all of the things. So Hollywood's fashion design and garments industry, it has a core relationship with US cultures, and all of the things. Besides that, educations. If you see the youth and all of the things, like educations is heavily influenced by American education system, like this.
Yeah,
Uh,
that makes sense. Hey, Dr. Sharif, the other thing that people are talking about, whether it's in the barbershop or just in general, as I've been out and about on a couple of days and everything, is immigration. Because, here we've got ICE that is going and grabbing people. And actually, I saw a what do you call it, a sleeper car, like a van, like what people would use if they were going to a camping and everything in my apartment complex. And of course there's speculation that could have been like an ICE operation and everything, because the apartment complex I live in does have a large Spanish population and all along those lines. So I know that immigration is something that people talk about regularly, and of course crime is something that people talk about regularly. So I just wondered, in Bangladesh, how big of an issue is immigration and crime? Because those are two popular issues that have come up just in general conversations and all along those lines. So I was wondering, how big of a issue are those two issues, both immigration and crime? And I would also add housing, because a lot of people are trying to figure out how to get housing, and I don't know how it is in Spain, Nick, and everything, but housing isn't exactly cheap here in this area. Oh, and the other thing that my barber was talking about was rail, because we don't have, like y'all do in Spain, and I guess in even other third world countries, high speed rail. There have been people that have actually suppressed it, because he was like saying, if I could get to Charlotte in an hour or 30 minutes, I might even do my operation in those towns and then come back home to Durham, North Carolina. But we don't have high speed rail, unlike what they have in Europe. So, you can't go to DC and you can't go to other places and go to work and then come back home in an hour of an hour or two, the way you can, say, from France to Denmark with high speed rail.
Mhm. Thank you. This is very interesting aspects and very good opportunity. Country like Bangladesh. I want to just focus on Bangladesh because I am from Bangladesh. First thing first, if you have hardworking, intelligence, and the youth community, this is asset. Let's say country like Bangladesh, our major fund come through our foreign remittance. How it possible? Because of our youth. Even though USA stopped their immigration process and other things, China is a very smart. China know what to do, how to do, and that they have long-term strategy. And if you see the China education system last 7 years, they were aggressive for their education system, improving their infrastructure, education, and all of the things. They want to build Harvard in China. They want to build MIT in China. That's why, not only that, that's why they know the real talented people from Bangladesh. We have 4 Nobel laureate, real hardworking students from Bangladesh, and they target this market. And they say, hey, you do not have to pay the tuition fees. US tuition fees is very high. We will pay you scholarship, your fund, and all of the things for undergraduate, masters, PhD. And they suck all of the talented people from Bangladesh, all of the talented people. Even you see, when USA introduced these immigration issues, let's say they increase the price for H1 visa, right the way China has full preparations. China go for K visa. They suck all of the talented peoples in their countries, and that will be challenging things for USA, because talent for AI industries, for tech industry is very, 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 very essential. And what happened last 30 years? Let's say the Indian talent go to USA, they learn from Silicon Valley, they come to India, and they say, hey, let's build our own Silicon Valley. The Chinese people go to USA, they learn from Silicon Valley, they said, hey, let's build our own Silicon Valley. Dubai people go to USA, they learn from there and they build up UAE, next Silicon Valley from there. I think USA do not understand how to manage this talent economy, how to manage this strategy, and all of the things. Second things I want to say about Japan. I can remember the Japanese 440 companies, HR companies representative. Even they come to my house. They said, hey, you have talent people, you have hardworking people, and you have youth communities. We want to hire 100,000 Bangladeshi people. You do not have to pay anything. So we will pay them salaries and everything. Japan hunt them. Same thing Australia. You can see that Australia heavily inviting Bangladeshi youth communities for them, because youth are the future for any countries. Something happened in the Middle East. So I believe in some point, in terms of long-term strategy, uh, USA has to improve their talent economy. I want to help US institutions and the policymakers how to make relationship with the talented peoples, make relationship with the young peoples, make relationship with the Gen Z, utilizing their talents and make a progressive economy. I believe if they continue this kind of immigration policies and everything, after 2 3 years, USA will struggle with their all of the tech giants and their economy and more things, and China will take lead through this
Yeah,
process.
I do want to make a comment on that now that you brought that up on education, Sharif. And I'm just going to put some facts and figures up here for our audience. And here's what you'll like. This is the tuition to go to Spain per year. It's approximately 750 euros, which is almost equal to dollars, to 2,500 a year tuition to go to Spain, good public school. Now you go to the United States, 11,000 to 25,000 per year tuition. So when it comes to younger people and developing them in the U.S., they get burdened when they graduate by a huge amount of student debt. In Spain, they don't. So it's just a
Yeah,
different, like I say, it's just a different way of life. But people in the U.S. should really consider getting their education outside of Spain. And I did actually get part of my law degree at a place called Oxford University. I went to St. Edmund's Hall. Now, why did I go to Oxford? This is years ago, and I did some research. It was cheaper to go to Oxford than it was the University of Miami Law School, where I was attending law school. And I talked to my parents. I said, all in, flights, room, tuition. Oxford's a better deal economically. It's cheaper than the University of Miami. So I went to Oxford. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And see, this is one of the problems. Americans are so trained to only look like this. What's in the U.S. and outside the U.S. They don't have a clue. But this is the reality. And they have some good universities overseas. University of Padua. They have some good alumni. It was Galileo, believe it or not, University of Padua. They have University of Barcelona here in Barcelona. They have IEU or and ZH, I think it's ZH something in Switzerland. So you really got to look at it. They have some top universities, not just Oxford and Cambridge, here in the European Union. So just an interesting factoid.
European Union actually very good partner for Bangladesh and South Asia, even an
Yeah.
emerging economy. They have lot of investment. They have they support a lot. But I request even next week we are doing this startup ecosystem developments with India Institute of Technology. I request you all please join in our World Talent Economic Forum institutions. I know all of you have a great experience, you have a great networks and all of the things, so you can contribute for the youth, and definitely you can monetize it, you can make new company, you can build up new relationship with this emerging economy, and that will be still. I'm a big fan of USA. I learn a lot from US people. Nick Palveda, I respect you a lot, and all of my US friend, because US is open minded. US develop a open society, and most importantly, I believe that USA uh, respect and support lot of young talented peoples and all other things. It's a very good culture. Culture is very important. Culture is very important. I respect US culture. So hopefully we can make the new contribution. Maybe Port TV will be the next innovative solution for the world
Yeah.
and for
Well,
the
we should go to the other side of the world in Ukraine and see how the war or the conflict is going there. Sasha keeps up to it almost daily. We know the U.S. government shut down, so I guess they're not going to be helping anybody, including themselves. But how is the conflict going over in Ukraine?
The conflict is doing very well for Ukraine, and for the last 3.5 years, I and my partners on the show, the only ones in North America who believed always in eventual victory for Ukrainians. And most of the American publications because they don't have a clue really about this conflict, nature of the conflict, and what's really happening there. So one of them would say, well, Russia is a much bigger country. Russia will win for sure. Just a matter of time. Ukrainians have to think about giving some territories and so on. And once one, two publications would say that, others would follow the suit mindlessly simply because they are too shy and or stupid to uh, really think about the situation and say something. No, they wouldn't. So they would just go the same thing over and over. Russia is a big country. Ukraine has to give up the territory and so on, whatever Russia wants and so on. Well, that didn't happen and it will not happen. The Ukraine is amassing the most potent army in Europe, and because of American lack of experience compared to Ukraine, I would venture to say that Ukraine today is by far the strongest army in the world. Full stop, period. Any comments?
So
No, I think you get it on the point and everything like that. Hey, Rick, just really quickly, what are you finding on Drudge? Because you can tell I was out and about just like I was last time and everything like that. And
we
if
got
either
this,
you or Nick have any ideas,
so we have the government shutdown, which means that 900,000 Americans won't be receiving paychecks, including everybody in the military. And Trump says he's going to use the shutdown to fire tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of federal employees and get rid of entire federal departments, which he by law cannot do, but that won't necessarily stop him. The last shutdown we had was under Trump. Trump shut down the government for 5 weeks in 2018 and 2019 because Congress wouldn't give him $6 billion to build his wall. So we'll see how long this one lasts. It did a lot of damage last time. It cost the U.S. a lot of money. It has the potential to damage our credit rating. And if it does that, then we will have to pay higher rates for the bonds we sell to pay for our debts. So it could be kind of disastrous.
Oh, there are no lineup of countries or people buying us debt. It's it's a dead issue, the U.S. debt. So only morons and complete idiots are buying U.S. debt instruments, and they don't actually need to raise interest rates to attract buyers. They don't need buyers because the Federal Reserve will eat up all these debts. Okay, all the eventually, I can see a picture in a not too distant future that the Federal Reserve will become the biggest creditor of U.S. So it's a self-dealing.
How does that work? How if the U.S. can't pay its debts and has to take out loans?
Easy. Federal Reserve can print the money, and they will print as much money as to buy all U.S. debt, even if it's $100 trillion. It doesn't matter, $500 trillion. So they will print $500 trillion.
Well, that's wildly inflation. That will cause huge inflation.
Yes, it is. You're right. It's inflationary. It's a horrible thing to do, and so on. The gold will go to $100,000 an ounce, but it doesn't matter. Warren Buffett once asked if U.S. one day, because of this debt, could go bankrupt. Warren Buffett says it's impossible because US is the only country in the world that can print US dollars. Nobody else can do it. And because all debt and all instruments, international instruments, are nominated in US dollars, like oil, like gold, like anything. So therefore, US cannot go bankrupt. But it can go downhill, and although technically it will not be bankrupt country, but reality, yes, It will be bankrupt country for sure.
That sounds not good.
No, no, it's not. And well, maybe things will change 3.5 years from now, but you know, it's too little, too late. The damage will be overwhelming, especially if this government shutdown. And this time, I think it will go on for at least 6 months. There are no incentives to finish this shutdown. No, no incentives. They are not suffering. The diplomats, all these senators and House representatives are not suffering.
Yeah, they continue to get paid.
They are paid, but they're asking all the rest of the people, especially essential people, continue to work without pay. And
That includes the military. I think it includes people who deliver the mail.
air traffic controllers, for example, these people.
Yeah, do you really want your plane directed through the air by an overworked guy who is pissed off that he hasn't been paid in 6 weeks?
Well, the people who are asking to perform their work without pay, they would call in claiming that they're sick, or they're on the way to the hospital, or they are already technically dead and they're still sort of trying to stay alive, but nobody knows for how long. I would definitely terminate those services. Go away, everybody, while you're still have any brains left.
So just shut down the airports, because they'll be more dangerous with people calling in. So they won't have enough air traffic controllers. So who do you think gets
Pilots
paid?
have to go on strike as well. Pilots have to call in sick. Pilots have to go anywhere, hiding in a forest or anywhere else, or just crawl to another country, like whether Canada or Mexico, and just do anything. The America has to go and stop full for next 6 months. And that could bring out some solutions to what's happening right now.
So who do you think gets blamed for this? The Democrats kind of had to participate in the shutdown because they're getting called pussies who can't stand up to Trump.
Okay, good. Stand up to Trump. That's good. Okay, so stand up.
But the Republicans control all arms of government, so people are saying, it's their fault.
They cannot control anything without money. They can control that when they have the money. When there are no money, there is no control. So they can just go.
Hey, Sasha and Rick, Sasha and Rick, just really quickly. The other thing that happened yesterday that people are talking about a lot is this notion of Pete Hetchis talking about the military and saying that the military is soft, meaning the U.S. military, and all along those lines. And even there's been criticism about the Navy ships and their design and all along those lines, and how there are too many fat generals and things along those lines. So I was just wondering, as one that's been in the military, what are y'all thoughts, and Sharif as well, on this notion? And speaking of soft, that was one of the conversations that came up in the barbershop, because we were talking about how a lot of these athletes now are don't really get face a lot of consequences. Like the referees don't really deal with them and don't really aren't strict with them the way that they used to be, and everything like that. So do you think that we as a society, meaning particularly those in the West, have become much softer?
I want to add one.
We're not fighting World War II. We're not fighting World War I in the trenches. No. There have been some great fat generals. The Leslie Groves, who ran like I said yesterday, ran the Manhattan Project, where the U.S. developed the most powerful weapon in history, the atomic bomb. General Groves was fat. The greatest, maybe one of the greatest generals in U.S. history, Winfield Scott, was commanding general of the U.S. Army from 1841 to 1861. He fought in the War of 1812. He was in the Army for 53 years. By the time he was done being a general, he was 300 pounds, too fat to get on a horse. But a great general. By the time you get up to the rank of general, it's your experience and your intelligence, and it doesn't matter frickin' how many pull-ups you can do. It's ridiculous. The whole emphasis on fitness among generals.
But Rick, what about this other nature, this nature of us being soft? Because like I said, part of the conversation was how a lot of athletes are getting these great deals in the terms of NIL, and they're not really getting a lot of kind of like strict discipline from their parents or from their referees or their coaches or a number of other folks. So there's kind of this notion that they're able to get away with a lot more than they used to be able to get away with.
I'll take the opposite point of view, which is the NCAA for decades contributed to the exploitation of college athletes with their overly strict rules on what scholarship athletes could get. If you're a scholarship athlete, and you say you're a defensive lineman and you weigh 285 pounds and you want to get up to 300 so you're more effective. If some booster of your college dropped off 2 bags of groceries, that would put you in violation of the NCAA rules, and you could and your school could get in trouble. The rules were really bad for a long time, and the NIL rules just lead to athletes getting fair compensation. If you're a star and your presence on a football team means that football team makes an extra $20 million in bowl fees, in advertising revenue, or whatever from their boosters, you should participate in that.
About U.S. Army, what I would like to say is that Trump just called Putin a paper tiger. I think U.S. Army is a fat, big U.S. Paper tiger. They've lost every war since Second World War when they participated.
What did you say, Sasha? I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Said that the U.S. has lost every war since World War II, or at least hasn't won. The Korean War has never officially ended. It's remained a stalemate. The Vietnam War, we lost.
We lost every war. U.S. lost every war. And today there are 3 real army in the world. It's Ukrainian army, it's the Russian army, and it's Israeli army. There are 3 armies that are tried and tested and show that ability that they can really fight. Even Russia they will eventually lose its fight, but they're losing again the strongest military in the world, Ukrainians. Okay, if you will put in a place of Russians any other army, French, English, German, any other country will be destroyed in no time. And I have very much doubts if America would be able to sustain itself, because they losing every war, every fight, and they don't really want the fight. They're going through $1 million budget. It's clear to me what they're using it for. So they're getting big fat paychecks for doing nothing. I really don't understand all that set up. To me, it's corruption, all one big corruption, really. That's all what it is.
All right, last night on The Daily Show, Ronnie Chang said you do not want, certain soldiers should not be in shape. That the guy who runs the drone, you want him soft. You want him to look like a guy who's sitting in his chair 10 hours a day, fiddling with video games. That guy is going to be a better drone operator than the guy who's running 5 miles a day.
I doubt it, because if he is not in a great physical shape, he will not be able to sit down for 10 hours. He will get tired after 2.5 hours. That's what's the problem. And also,
The Daily Show is a comedy show, but it makes the point that the soldiering, the military works differently now than it did in World War II, where you have a lot of desk jobs and you have a lot of fighting being done by drones. Not everybody is in the frickin' trenches. And the Hegseth's emphasis on being tough and not being woke doesn't match the world. And I'm sure that if you look at most of the world's militaries, now maybe not the ones Sasha talks about, but well, I mean, you mentioned the Israeli army. The Israeli army is super woke because every Israeli woman has to fight in the army. Everybody in Israel, except for the very Orthodox, they have to do what, 2 years in the Israeli military, and that includes
I think it's 2 years.
Yeah. So
hey, Rick and Sasha, just really quickly along those same lines and everything, because that was one of the other debates that were taking place at the barbershop. Do we think that women should be in the military, and if so, should they be in every position? Because there were some people there that were in the barbershop where I was at. They were arguing that there are certain positions that women may not be capable of doing, where there was others that was like, hey, if they can do the job, let them do the job, even if they want to run a tank or something that usually is considered to be a very masculine job.
There are certain very elite positions where it would be tough for women, like Navy SEALs. The training for that and the endurance and strength requirements for that disqualify most women. But what percent of the military is Navy SEALs? Probably 0.1%. It's a rare frickin' thing. And most other positions women can serve.
There are a lot of jobs in military, such as bookkeepers, for example, and I don't see what men have any advantage over women in that position, or librarians or something.
Yeah, I look at the jobs my dad's had, my father-in-law had in the military. My father-in-law he became a CPA later, but he was inventory control and bookkeeping for nuclear weapons. My stepdad guarded nuclear weapons. My birth dad flew nuclear weapons around on a B-36 bomber. All that stuff can be done by women.
Oh, B-36, that's very interesting, because they were employed in U.S. Army a very short period of time, around...
in the early 50s. It was a crazy, crazy airplane. It had something like, I want to say 14 engines. It had like 4 jet engines and then like 6 or 8 propeller engines.
Yeah.
And it was a nutty plane. My dad said that they were always flying around with 1 or 2 engines out. The payload was 1 nuclear weapon.
Two. They could get 2. Yes.
Well, all right. Well, they
nuclear weapons. 2.
Well, okay. So I'll maybe disagree. When they started flying it, they had the atomic bomb, and then later they had the hydrogen bomb.
Well, I think they had 2. They were designed to deliver 2 hydrogen bombs. I think M25, so 25 kiloton.
Yeah, that's so crazy because
two biggest nuclear bomb developed at that time.
Ever. Yeah, the city killing. Yeah, the insane bombs. Like
and that was the only plane that could carry these 2 bombs. Nothing else.
I mean, but I don't know how they would even get away from the first explosion, because it's such a tremendous explosion. Now the bombs.
It depends on what height. They could go very, very high in the sky, and if they are, say, 12 kilometers or higher, they could escape hydrogen bomb explosion.
Yeah, I mean, and the bombs had parachutes, so they'd fall more slowly to give the plane time to get away. But still, you're talking a bomb that is 1,000 times more powerful than the bomb that blew up Hiroshima. It was just insanity. And it was
Yeah,
kids.
when Russian had demonstrated explosion of 50 Tsar bomber, 50 kilotons, they were able to escape. They were enormously high. It was 1960, so they were flying as high as they could, dropped the bomb on a parachute, so they could still fly farther. And only then there was explosion, and it was the shock wave was going around the world 3 times over.
In the 60s, things got really crazy, where each side had 7,000 nuclear warheads, and some of these warheads were big enough to kill a city of 20 million people all at once.
So that was a time when we were living in a mad, mutual assured destruction. And it was really guaranteed by that time. See, today the situation is different because there are less warheads. Now there are new theories that the nuclear war is not that dangerous. Yeah, a lot of people will die, but they will die anyway sooner or later, so that's not a big deal. And then the war will be won by one of the sides, and the time, the life will go on.
That's terrible, terrible thinking, especially with AI getting added to the mix, where it starts, helping make decisions, and everything happens faster than humans can deal with it. Yeah, it's a bad deal.
Yes, I agree. Of course.
All right, what else is happening here? Let's see. Part of an apartment building in New York City collapses. What else? Do we have any big stories? Getting back to AI. One of the creators, the guy who's called the Godfather of AI, remains concerned as ever about human extinction. That AI, this guy who was, one of the founders, is calling for a shutdown, a moratorium on AI until we can learn how better to control it. Because AI has been learning how to lie to people. So AI isn't conscious. AI can't think, but because it's been trained on how people think, it thinks it can think, and it starts to behave like people, which includes lying to people. And that stuff is already going on.
Wonderful.
Hey, speaking of AI and all along those lines, hey, Rick, what is your thoughts around this notion of Assata Shakur and Charlie Kirk? Because a lot of people are saying that Assata Shakur has become the martyr for the left, much in the way that Charlie Kirk became the martyr for the right since she passed away, and she was actually involved in Cuba and everything like that. So what is your thoughts around this notion? She was a person that was in exile in Cuba and died and everything like that, but she was fighting for Puerto Rican independence. And I know Twitter has been exploding all over with people either praising her or not praising her, including Kasha Patel, who is the head of one of Trump's departments.
I'm not familiar with her at all, but I'm
okay. Well, it's Tupac Shakur's godmother, but
I don't think there's any comparison, because Charlie Kirk was the head of, he was good at getting publicity, and since his assassination, there's been a huge media juggernaut in support of Charlie Kirk. I don't think there's
including the fact that I didn't know until my barber told me that one of my favorite players, because I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan, Justin Jefferson, apparently helped give money to Charlie Kirk's children, as well as gave money to, I want to say, the funeral and the family and everything like that. Now, whether he's a member of Turning Point or whether he was just moved by the assassination or the reason, and I haven't read enough of the article to find out what was going on. But I know that I am a big fan of him, as I'm a lifelong fan of the Minnesota Vikings.
So, I mean, for the first 10 days after he was murdered, his organization and his family were getting $1 million a day in donations. So I assume that's still going on. You know, that they're still making a ton of money. I mean, you can't exactly fault them for that, but their message will go on and their political power will probably increase. But I don't see the Democrats having anything comparable. Not that they would want anything comparable, because it's based on the murder of the leader. But the Republicans are much more organized.
So do you think if, say, somebody like Chuck Schumer or somebody else who would have been killed, God forbid, do you think it would help Democrats?
Not. I don't think it helps anybody for somebody to be murdered.
You see, the problem is that the Democrats, they're so helpless in today's fundraising, the delivering the message, that nothing, even half of them who will be killed, will not help them to unite, to have any substantial cash-raising efforts or delivering their message, whatever it might be. It's just, they're so hopeless. It's just incredible considering how many problems Republicans have, starting from Trump himself.
Yeah,
so
but
it's just incredible.
Yeah, but the Republicans are really good at messaging. And they have a bunch of megaphones. They have Fox News. They have OANN. They have all these right-wing news organizations where the Democrats 20, 30 years ago had Air America, which was their attempt to have a radio channel to counter Rush Limbaugh. And Air America went out of business within 5 years. That there weren't enough angry liberal listeners to keep it going compared to angry white male listeners that kept Rush Limbaugh going. It's an asymmetric.
I think it's all a matter of talent as well. Rush Limbaugh, he was incredibly talented.
Yeah, what do you, Sasha and Rick? What do you say to people that argue that Pacifica and NPR are the left version of Rush Limbaugh? Because I do have people that are on the right that will tell you that Pacifica is very left-leaning, as is NPR and a number of others as well. So what is your argument to them?
You know, if you listen to NPR, they do calm journalism. They go find, now some of their stories may be on liberal things, on people, you know, suffering because they've lost medical coverage, but it's not inflammatory. Rush Limbaugh was inflammatory with his feminazis, and he coined a bunch of terms and ideas that got, you know, conservative white guys really worked up. NPR does not get people worked up. Pacifica Radio does not get people like angry and shaking their fists and hating the other side. They do reporting. And so, no, it's not symmetrical at all.
I agree.
Rachel Maddow might be the most effective and persuasive voice on the left on MSNBC, but she's not inflammatory. I mean, she gets annoyed with stuff, and she'll go on, like her opening monologue sometimes runs longer than 20 minutes as she methodically presents a set of facts. And that really does not get people shaking their fists in the street and, you know, and flying American flags. It gets people pissed off at the way things are, but not in the way that conservative media get conservatives pissed off. 50 years ago, Republican think tanks, conservative think tanks, figured out we need to go for the dumb people, the undereducated people, because they are easier to get pissed off. They're easier to, and what we're seeing is the result of 50 years of that, where, there are idiots on both sides in the government, but probably Republicans have way more idiots.
Yeah. No, they're doing the right thing if to win and hold on to the power. Everything what they're doing is right, and everything what Democrats are doing is they don't have focus. They don't understand their electorate. They're just there. I really don't know why.
So Democrats, it was even Obama's slogan is hope. Democrats hope that people will look at the political landscape and turn towards the good side, which the Democrats think is the Democrats. But they don't do enough messaging. They don't flood the space. Jimmy Kimmel got pulled off the air for telling the truth about what Republicans did after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which was flood the zone with messaging. Jimmy Kimmel talked about that, and a lot of the messaging said that this was the result. The Republican messaging was that it wasn't a right-wing extremist who did this, that left-wing violence is destroying America, and this was the barrage of messaging, and he got pulled off the air for saying that.
You remember the first term of Donald Trump as president? He was doing all the rallies and almost every week, every 2 weeks. And so they were in a mode after the election. They were already preparing winning another year, second election. And they were mobilizing their people. They were kept them going. And Trump doing something similar now, except now he has much more powerful propaganda machine at that time.
Yeah.
What Democrats have learned from that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and the conservatives, Republicans own all the propaganda machines or are playing along. Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it from a place where people went to exchange jokes. Twitter used to be fun. I'd put up a ton of jokes. I'd read hundreds of jokes from funny people. All the funny people are gone now. And if they're still there like me, we're just pissed off and we're not putting up jokes. We're just bitching about stuff. And so, yeah, Republicans, the Washington Post is kissing Trump's ass. The LA Times is now owned by a conservative, kisses Trump's ass. ABC kisses Trump's ass, paid him $15 million for nothing. All the messaging arms.
Google just gave a bunch of money too and everything like that. So a lot of people are doing that and are kissing the ring, as people like to say.
Google paid Trump $24.5 million that he says he's going to use to build his big, beautiful ballroom because Trump was kicked off of YouTube in 2020 or 2021,
right?
Because you would get kicked off if you claimed election fraud in 2021. Google didn't want people, broadcasting bullshit, and they ruled that Trump was, and now they're paying him almost $25 million because of that, because they did to him what they did to thousands of other people on YouTube who were pushing bullshit. All right, something's going on. All right, I think we're out of time. I will see you tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, everybody.